Hi there, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise. Tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today we are targeting the digestive and assimilation processes ahead of the holiday period where we tend to overindulge just a little bit, maybe eating, maybe drinking a little bit excessively. Use today's practice liberally over the holiday period. Use it as a tonic, either before or after such periods of overindulgence. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify when you need to, rest when you need to. You ready? Let's hit the mat. We're going to set ourselves up in a kneeling frame towards the back end of the mat with enough runway in front of you so that you can comfortably find your way onto the belly. We're going to sit in Thunderbolt and then start to work a modified frog pose by fisting the hands. Knuckles are looking in towards the center, and you're going to place your knuckles, wrists on your hip bones with the knuckles looking in towards center, and then think child pose and try to wrap your belly and your lower organs over your fists so that you start toning into the lower organs, maybe connecting your forehead to the mat or maybe placing a block or a pillow beneath your head. Stay here, gently pressing your fists into the lower organs, starting to connect maybe to the colon, the liver, the pancreas, starting to connect to those organs, beginning to tone them. And maybe you can work your fists in a soft, undulating, massaging-like motion for a little bit more of a connect, a little bit more of a toning effect. Give yourself a few moments here. You are going to feel quite a bit of compression into the lower belly. Try to have the legs in a narrow stance where it feels like you're bringing the knees and the feet close together along the midline, as close as you can comfortably bear. And then feed your fisted hands out from underneath your belly and extend the arms long and lengthened on the mat in front of you. We're going to work a modified thread the needle, Sukhi Randasana. We've still got our legs in that narrow parallel stance. You're going to take a big breath in. On the exhale, maybe take the right arm, tuck it underneath the left armpit, and come to rest maybe on the right temple or the right side of your head. Inhale to bleed back to center, and exhale to thread to side two, taking the left arm, tucking it underneath the right armpit this time, coming to rest maybe on your left temple or the left side of your head. Inhale to peel back to center, arms are long and extended on the mat in front of you. We're going to work a modified caterpillar to find our way onto the belly. Start to feel like you're pressing your fingertips and the pads of your hands into the mat. Allow your elbows to track wide as you drag your whole body onto the mat, lying down onto the belly with the arms long and relaxed on the mat alongside you. Palms are looking up to the ceiling. Your forehead is connected to the mat, and the legs are long and draped on the mat behind you. Begin to heel toe the feet in so that your feet and your legs are flush along the midline, and just pause here for a moment, squeezing the two legs together as close as you can along the midline. So it's an active squeeze inwards. You also at the same time going to feel your belly and the lower organs start to press into the mat. Then bend your elbows, place your hands alongside your bosom. We're going to push back into that narrow child. Arms long and extended on the mat in front of us. Then bleed your way from here into 4-point kneeling, trying to keep that narrow stance if you can, so the knees are still flush along the midline, or if you feel more comfortable, you can open up the legs into parallel. We're going to come into a modified cat-cow. Inhale to prepare, taking your chin and your bum bones to the sky, giving me a hollow back. And then change up the shape on the exhale, hollowing out your belly and rounding out your back. And start to find a little cat-cow flow of your own. Inhaling and exhaling as you play with the shape of your spine. Maybe starting to use a nice audible breath pattern. And maybe you're playing at a 1-to-1 or maybe a 1-to-2 inhalation to exhalation. Your choice. Then come to stillness somewhere between the two in a modified long tabletop line and sit back to your original position on the mat, finding your way back into your fisted frog. Wrapping your belly and your lower organs over your fists as you think forward to mat, trying to keep the two legs as close together along the midline as you can, and maybe playing with a soft, undulating massage with your fisted hands. Starting to aid those lower organs in their processes. Then feed your hands out, extend the arms long and lengthened on the mat in front of you, and get ready to thread. Big breath in to prepare. Exhale to tuck one arm underneath the other armpit, coming to rest on the side of your head on a nice audible exhale. Inhale to find your way back to the middle, and exhale to thread to the second side. Allow your arms to find their way back towards the midline. And then get ready to caterpillar down, dragging the weight forward, finding your way onto the belly. Arms long and relaxed along your side, palms up, forehead connected to the mat. Make sure the feet are flush along the midline. Begin to squeeze the energy together. And then actively, keeping that squeeze active the whole time, begin to add a conscious press of your thighs into the mat. Maybe thighs and lower belly. Your feet stay connected to the mat, your forehead stays connected to the mat, your arms are still connected to the mat. Actively squeezing in and down. In and down. Then keeping that narrow stance if you can, bring the arms alongside your bosom by bending the elbows and push back once more into that narrow child if you can. Take a moment here, really allowing that belly to press down into the tops of your thighs. Then bleed your way back into 4-point kneeling, and maybe this time open up the knees so that they're hip-width distance apart. Find that long tabletop line that we were playing with. So long line through your neck and your spine. And then keeping the back as still as you can, we're going to play with a little bit of belly activation. You're going to relax the belly button so it feels like your belly is hanging on the floor. And then on an exhale, suck it up. You're going to keep playing with that relaxed belly and then that pull up. Relaxed belly, pull up. The whole time you're keeping your gaze down on the mat between your two thumbs, giving me a nice long line through the neck and the spine. And you're not changing the shape of your back. So you're not cat-cowing. You're keeping the tabletop line. You're just relaxing your belly and pulling it up. Relaxing, pulling up. You're going to end in the belly up position. Hold it. Slide the right arm out in front of you as far as you can. Slide the left leg out behind you as far as you can. And then in unison, float the two limbs up into a tabletop line. Reach for the wall in front of you and the wall behind you. Trying to forge the longest line through your arm, neck, spine, and leg. Bleed your two floating limbs back down to the mat and find your way back into 4-point kneeling. Give me a few of those belly relaxing and contracting again. So belly relaxes, then suck it up, soften, belly up, soften, belly up. Keeping your back line as still as you can and just playing with the lower belly. End in the belly up position. Then slide the left arm out as far as you can. Slide the right leg out as far as you can. In unison, float the two limbs up and stay here, looking for length through your floating arm and your floating leg. Watch that you haven't thrown either the arm or the leg or both up too high and arched too much through the spine. So you're looking for a relatively neutral long line. Then bleed your way back into 4-point kneeling. Bring the two knees together, bring the 2 feet together. Sit back, bum to heel. Find your fisted hands. Place them on the inside of your hip bones and curl your belly over your fists as you think forward to floor. Pause here for a moment. Keeping your fists still, or maybe playing with a nice soft undulating, massaging like motion with your fists. Keep your breath work long, soft, and even. Then bleed your fists out from under your belly. Extend the arms long and lengthened on the mat and prepare for your thread. Big breath in, on an exhale. Thread one arm underneath the opposite armpit, coming to rest on the side of your head and pausing here. Breathing through that compression in the lower belly. Inhale to come back to center. And exhale to actively thread to the second side. Bring the arms back into extension in front of you and find your way onto the belly, caterpillar style, trying to keep the legs as flush along the midline as you can. Forehead connects to the floor, arms are long and relaxed at your side. Start to squeeze the energy between the two legs together. Keep the squeeze active as you begin to actively press the tops of your thighs and your lower belly into the mat. Keep the arms and the feet on the mat and start to execute a slow chest lift by pretending you've got a little marble underneath your nose. Begin to roll the marble away from you to the front of the mat. Start to gently peel your chest off the mat, stopping in a baby cobra line just before your bottom lip disengages from the mat. Then pause here. Keep squeezing the energy between the legs together. Keep pressing the tops of your thighs and your feet into the mat. As you lift the chest, you're going to feel more compression into the belly area. Then see if you can keep the squeeze, the press, and the lift as you start to float the arms off the mat. Maybe you're just reaching for the wall behind you. Maybe you're giving me a fisted line, drawing the two palms as close together as you can, and reaching your knuckles for the wall behind you. You're going to feel a nice stretch into the shoulder area. At the same time, you're going to feel more compression into the lower viscera. Then unbind your hands, bleed your way slowly back down to the mat. Trying to keep the legs as close together along the midline as you can. Bend the elbows, place the palms alongside your bosom and push back into your narrow child. Feet and knees as close together along the midline as you can. As you take a little push back, maybe relaxing your forehead to the mat, arms are still long and draped on the mat behind you. Find your way back into 4-point kneeling, opening up your knees back into parallel. Hands are stacking underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hip points. You're coming back into that long tabletop line with your gaze down on the mat just between your two thumbs. You're going to hold the belly up position, so pull the belly button into center, make sure that that tummy is not hanging on the floor. You're going to keep that long line through the neck and the spine, so not changing the shape of your back. Keep the belly up position. Look over your left shoulder. for the back of your mat. Hold that little stretch on the oblique. Then inhale to come back to center and exhale to look over the right shoulder. Do that a few more times, but don't rush your look. Look over the shoulder and then pause. Hold the look for a few seconds. Inhale, come back to center, and then exhale to look over the other shoulder. The whole time you're keeping that long line through your spine and you're keeping the belly up position. So you're thinking of trying to fuse your belly button to your spine. And come back to center, holding that belly up position the whole time. Slide the right arm out in front of you as far as it will go. Slide the left leg out as far as it will go, and in unison float the two limbs up into table. Then tap to the mat and come back to your start position. You're going to give me a few dynamic taps here, trying to keep your neck and your spine as long as you can as you tap the fingertips and toes of your extended limbs to the mat and back to your tabletop line. Exhaling as you tap and then inhaling as you come back. You're going to end in the tap position. Draw back into 4-point kneeling and prepare to do the same on side 2. Slide the left arm out as far as it will go. Slide the right leg out as far as it will go. In unison, float up. Tap to the mat and come back. Keep looking for length through your extended limbs, trying to hold that beautiful long line through your neck and your spine. So keep your gaze down on the mat, just to the side of your thumb, so that you're not dropping through the tabletop line with your head and your neck. Lead your way back into 4-point kneeling. Then find Thunderbolt as you bring the knees together, the feet together, and sit back, finding your way back into your fisted frog, wrapping your belly over your fists and thinking forehead to mat. Keeping your fists still or playing with that soft massaging motion with the fists. Breathe nice and deeply into the back and the sides of your ribs. Try to keep your breathing long, soft, and even. Getting enough air in for the processes that we're stimulating. Then feed your fisted hands out long and lengthened on the mat in front of you and prepare for your thread. Big breath in to prepare. On the exhale, thread one arm underneath the opposite armpits. Pause here for a moment, resting on the temple or maybe the side of your head. Inhale to peel back to center and exhale to thread to side 2. Allow your arms to find their way back towards the midline and prepare to caterpillar down onto the belly, trying to keep the legs as flush together along the midline as you can as we work the next progression, a stick. Arms are relaxed at your side, palms up. Legs are squeezing together in towards the midline. Keep the midline squeeze, start to press down actively into the tops of your thighs and maybe your belly. Then start to peel your head and your chest off the mat. Lock your chest lift in, still keeping the press and the squeeze. Float the arms behind you, maybe reaching or fisting and reaching with your knuckles, and then see if you can float the feet off the mat. So you're coming into more of a narrow locust, trying to keep the feet as close together as you can. If this feels uncomfortable, you can open up the legs into parallel. So play where you're comfortable. A lot of compression into the lower belly. Work through it. Then relax back down to the mat. Arms drape at your side as you relax back down. Try to keep the feet as close together along the midline as you can. We're going to push back into child from here. So start to bend through the elbows, think bum to heel, coming into your narrow Vajrasana-like stance with the arms long and lengthened in front. your way back into 4-point kneeling, and you can either keep the knees flush along the midline, or you can open up once more into that parallel stance. Hands are stacking underneath your shoulders. We're going to keep both hands grounded, and we're going to play with the legs. Let's start on the right side. Drag your right leg into extension, float the leg up into table. You're going to give me one tap to the mat, bring it back to table, and then think knee to armpit on the right and repeat the sequence. Tapping to the mat, bleeding back into table, knee to armpit. You're going to do that maybe 5 or 10 times, finding a little rhythm of your own, trying to keep the longest sense of spine and neck that you can, trying to hold the belly up position as you play. And you can experiment with your inhalation and your exhalation cycle, but keep breathing. All right, let's change sides. Draw back into tabletop. Find that long line through the neck and the spine. Float the left leg out behind you. Bring it up into table. You're going to give me one tap to the mat. Then you're going to think knee to armpit and come back. So you're always starting and ending in the tabletop position. Table to tap, table to knee draw. Keeping that long sense of neck and spine. Maybe you're looking over the shoulder for that knee, or maybe you're keeping your gaze firmly down on the mat between your two thumbs as you play. Shoot for between 5 and 10 repetitions. Then find your way back into 4-point kneeling. If you were in a narrow stance, make sure you come back into a traditional 4-point kneel with your knees underneath your hip points and your hands underneath your shoulders. You're going to exhale as you tuck your toes under, pike your bum up into a down dog. Then give me an oblique stretch. Tap opposite hand to ankle, come back to 4-point kneeling, tapping your knees on the mat, back to down dog, and then stretch on the oblique. So every time you come to 4-point kneeling, you tap your knees softly to the mat. Every time you hit the down dog frame, you stretch on the oblique, reaching a hand to opposite ankle, or maybe hand to opposite shin bone or calf, depending on your range of motion. Then end in the down dog position. After your last tap, hold the down dog frame. Let's play on the right side of body. Find your way onto the tips of your toes. Hold the tiptoe position. And then sweep up the right leg behind you, finding an arching 3-legged dog, and hold. Hold that tiptoe position. Then use this tiptoe position to find your way into a beautiful warrior lunge line first. So we're going to think low lunge, swinging the right leg up to the inside of the right hand. Relax the back leg to the floor. You can keep the toes tucked under, or you can release the foot, but make sure you've got knee over ankle on the lead leg. Then bleed up, maybe pushing the right thigh away from you. If this feels good and you've got the core control, the ability to keep that trunk long and reaching, float both arms out in front of you. Take a big breath in, and on an active exhale, you're going to twist to the right, still reaching long through your fingertips. Stay here reaching, or start to soften the arms and reach opposite arm to hip. So bending softly through the elbows, your left palm reaching for your right hip, and you're going to reach right hand to left hip. From here, you're going to find your way into a warrior 2 stance, keeping your front leg exactly where it is. So think of tucking the toes with the back foot under, bring the back knee off, drop the back leg to 90, and then windmill your body open and find your way into a warrior 2 stance with a soft T-like frame through your palms. Palms are looking down, you're reaching for the wall in front of you and the wall behind you. Watch that you're not leaning all the way forward. So think of that weight coming down nice and equally through the pelvis towards the floor. Back leg is open at 90 and your front leg has got a nice 90-degree bend. Then straighten up the lead leg. We're going to work a wide triangle. So you're drawing up the energy along the top and the back quad. You're going to focus on your front hand. Pretend somebody's pulling it forward. You're going to pop out the back hip and then hinge forward, maybe placing your fingertips or your palm on the lead shin, or maybe using the back of your hand to press against the inseam of your leg, or maybe you're doing fingertips to floor, or maybe palm to floor. Wherever you're playing, try to give me a nice T-like frame with the arms as you find a modified open triangle, Utthita Trikonasana. And then we're going to extend the line of the top arm. Bring it closer towards your ear. Start to stretch through the trunk and the ribs on the left. Stay here or come into a full revolved triangle, Parivritta Trikonasana, by crossing over the midline. You can angle in that back foot at 45 if you find that that gives you more torque. And you're going to try to find purchase on the outside of your lead leg, or maybe you can grab the shin, or maybe you can use a block to find your twisted or your rotated position through the trunk. Excellent for toning the lower viscera, detoxifying after all those excesses. Then keep your hand position. Try to bend the lead leg, tuck the back toes under, and come into a modified revolved triangle. Maybe hands on the floor on the outside of your lead leg if you can, or if you prefer, you can place that hand on the inside if you find that that helps with your balance. Hold your revolved lunge line. Your back heel has peeled up off the mat. Then ease your way from here into a plank. So untwisting your trunk and placing both hands palms down either side of your lead leg. You're going to step your lead leg back into a plank and hold the body as parallel to the mat as you can. Not collapsing through the shoulders, so pushing the mat away nice and strong through the belly, nice and strong through the legs. We're going to chaturanga down onto the belly using knees or no knees. Bend the elbows, hug them in towards your ribs. Bleed your way down into the belly. As soon as you find your way onto the belly, relax the legs in parallel and slide the hands a little bit behind you, stretch it towards the lower end of your ribs. We're going to articulate up into swan, either just staying with the articulation, or you can begin to play with the rock. So, keeping those elbows tucked in and the hands placed nice and low, you're going to start rolling that marble away. Begin to peel up through your ribs, maybe pausing with the bottom 3 ribs nice and heavy into the mat and finding extension through your elbow points. Maybe you're limited with your movement through the spine and you want to stay here in your baby swan, or maybe begin to extend through the arms, resting on your belly button, then your 2 hip points, and your pubic bone, then the tops of your thighs. Then lift the thighs off, resting on the tops of your knees, with the heels of your hands underneath your armpit as you hold the full swan expression. Then maybe beginning to articulate back down slowly the same way you come up. First the top of your thighs connecting, then your pubic bone, your 2 hip points, your belly button, the bottom 3 ribs, the rest of your ribs. And you can articulate up one more down, up and down slowly, or you can begin to rock, pushing all the way up, and then as you come down, think locust and lifting your feet off the mat as your belly and your nose come back down, and you start to work a soft pistoning, rocking-like motion with your swan. Beautiful to tone that lower belly and the lower viscera. Give yourself a few rocks here. And then we'll find our way from here into child pose. You can keep your legs in parallel this time. And as you start to push back bum to heel, relax your elbow points to the floor and bring your hands together in a fist. Drop the fist to the mat and hold child here. So you actively, but softly, pressing through your elbow points and feeling a little bit of a stretch into the tricep area. Sit back. Your legs are still in a somewhat parallel stance, but you've opened up a little bit of space between both the feet and the knees, and you're still feeling a little bit of compression into the belly. Let's repeat that sequence on side 2. Find your way to 4-point kneeling. We're going to play with that tabletop And that down dog oblique. So tuck your toes under. Exhale for down dog. Tap hand to opposite ankle. And then give me a table knee tap to the mat. Giving yourself a few dynamic oscillations between the knee tabletop position, tapping softly with control through the core, and then as you hit the down dog, you reach on the oblique, hand to opposite ankle. Keeping lots of belly activation, so think belly to spine. Give yourself a few oscillations, and then end for me in the down dog frame. After your last tap, just hold the down dog, trying to anchor down through the back of your heels as best you can. Give me a few nice deep breaths here. And then let's find our way into a tiptoe position, coming all the way onto the tips of your toes. Sweep the left leg behind you and hold the tiptoe three-legged dog. Tripada Adho Mukha Svanasana. We're going to use the spring to come into a low lunge. So start bending your floating back leg. Swing it through to the inside of the left hand. Make sure you've got knee over ankle. Relax the back knee, shin and foot. And push up into a low lunge. Maybe pressing your lead thigh away from you. Stay here or begin to float the arms out in front. On an active exhale, twist to the left, keep your arms long and reaching, or soften through the arms, start to drop them towards your body line, and then reach palm to opposite hip and hold the twist. Maybe you're looking over the back shoulder for the back edge of your mat. From here, you're going to think about how you're going to find your way into a warrior two. You're going to tuck the back toe under, bring the knee off the floor and open up the foot to 90. And then wiggle your frame open. Tap the wall behind you, tap the wall in front of you. As you find that T-like frame in Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Look for strength, look for control. And then think about how you're going to use your leg setup to find a wide triangle. Straighten up the lead leg and start to pull the energy up from the lead kneecap along the quad. In fact, draw the energy up along the quads of both legs. Somebody's pulling your front hand. Begin to hinge forward. Find your triangle line, either resting on your shin or back of the hand on the inseam of the leg, or fingertips or palms to floor. Stay here, or maybe you want to play with the angle of the back foot and you want to bring it in slightly. Extend your top arm. Bring it closer towards your ear. Start to open up through the ribs and stretch through the trunk on the right. Then maybe coming into full rotation, twisting towards your lead leg. Maybe placing your fingertips or your palm on the floor on the outside of your lead leg as you rotate your triangle. Parivritta Trikonasana. Stay here or come into a full rotated lunge by bending your lead leg, tucking the back toes under. Having the hand on the outside of your lead leg today if you can, so there's quite a lot of compression, or if you prefer, you can place the hand on the inside of your lead leg. And that top hand is reaching for the sky, or maybe you want to look for an opportunity to bind to your opposite hip, your choice. Twists are always so awesome for detoxifying the lower organs. We're going to find our way into plank from here, so unwrap your trunk, place your hands palms down either side of your lead leg, step it back, give me a nice strong plank, so belly strong and control, not collapsing through the shoulders, pushing the mat away. When you're ready, you're going to chaturanga your way down onto the belly, and you're going to set yourself up for your swan line. Sweeping your hands back so that they're towards the lower end of your ribs. Start to peel up slowly through your swan. So starting to peel the chest off, stopping with your bottom three ribs heavy. Stay, or start to work the next progression, peeling up so that you're resting on your belly. Peel up a little bit more, resting on your hip bones. Then your pubic bone. Top of your thighs, coming to rest in the full expression on your kneecaps and the palms of your hands. Holding that long swan-like frame, then come down just as slowly. First connecting the tops of your thighs, then your pubic bone, your two hip points, your belly button, your bottom rib, your bottom three ribs. The rest of the ribs follow. Articulate up and down slowly one more time, or begin to play with your rock, pushing all the way up, and then as you come down, giving me a locust double leg lift and peeling both feet off the mat so that your whole body looks like a little rocking chair, rocking back and forth. Maybe exhaling as you come down, inhaling as you go up. Last one. We're going to push back from here into child pose, keeping that parallel line. As you drop down, bum to heel, you relax your elbow points to the mat. You bring your hands together in fist. You drop your fist to the mat, pressing softly but actively through your elbow points. And you can feel a little stretch in the tricep area. You're holding a parallel child, so got a little bit of distance between the feet and the knees, but there's still a little bit of compression happening in the belly. And then from here, we'll find our way into a seated frame to bring it onto the back by way of deep squat. So undo the hands, place them on the mat. Think lizard, so you're stepping wide on either side, dropping into a deep squat. Maybe keeping your hands on the floor nice and wide and using your elbow points or your triceps to open up the knees. Or maybe you want to think cactus, or maybe you want to bring it to prayer, giving thanks over the holiday period. We're going to find our way from here onto the back, using maybe a little fall back into a hollow hold, but you can come to a supine position however you're the most comfortable. So maybe just bringing the hands behind you, sitting back, legs are long and extended on the mat in front of you. You're going to think hollow belly, rounded back. You're going to fall back, making a hollow-like frame with your body, and you're going to hold here, maybe for a soft count of 10. And then relax to the back. Keep your left leg long and extended and start to actively draw the right knee into your nose and then relax it away from you. Little exhale as you squeeze the knee in, and then inhale as the leg draws away. And if you find it uncomfortable to keep your support leg extended, you can bend and ground the foot if you prefer. End in the knee up position, actively hugging that knee in towards your nose, maybe scooping to peel up off the shoulders. Think of that U frame that we just played with, and hold the knee to nose position here. Then relax your head and your shoulders back down to the mat, maybe relaxing the left arm either at your side, or you can bring it into T as you open up the right knee to the side of the room and bring it back, tracing a circular pattern in one direction for maybe 5 repetitions, and then changing it up and moving in the opposite direction. End in the 90 position, open up your right arm into T, change hands, so now reaching with your left fingertips for the outside of your right knee. You're going to roll onto the left hip as you draw the knee over and come back to start. Maybe giving yourself a few repetitive movements here, and every time that you find yourself rolling onto the left hip, you're going to try to get more range of motion. Maybe bringing your right knee closer to the floor so that you start to feel a more twisting action through the trunk. Your knee is traveling in one direction, you looking in the opposite direction every time you twist, and you're trying to keep your right shoulder blade as connected to the mat as you comfortably can. End in that twisted position and just hold wherever you are. Come back to center. Hug both knees in towards your chest, really softly, racing around the shins, and maybe just cradle rock your lower back side to side. Let's repeat that short sequence on side 2. Tap the big toes to the mat, fully extend the legs and take a little awesome stretch here, getting a nice stretch through the lower belly and the lower organs. Then actively bend your right knee, hugging in towards your chest, and keep playing with that dynamic knee hug, exhaling every time you pull the knee in towards the chest, and then inhaling as you allow the knee to draw away. Shoulders and the back of your ribs are nice and heavy into the mat, and your chin is relaxed softly down towards your chest so that there's no strain on the back of your neck. End in the knee to nose position. Scoop to peel up off the shoulders. Think of that hollow frame that we played with earlier on. Hold the squeeze. Then relax back down to the mat. Maybe T-framing your right hand. Place your left hand around the knee and start to trace a circular pattern with that hip joint, taking the knee out to the side of the room and back, tracing a few lazy circles in one direction, and then changing it up and tracing a few lazy circles in the opposite direction. Then open up both arms into T and reach opposite hand to the outside of that knee. Start to pull the knee over the midline as you roll onto the right hip and back. Give yourself a few dynamic rolls here. Every time you pull the knee across the midline, you float to look in the opposite direction. And every time you pull that knee into the twist, you try to get a little bit more twist through the frame. So think more torque every time you draw the knee over. Maybe thinking of bringing that left knee closer and closer to the floor every time you come into the twist. Just allow your lower back to be your guide. It'll tell you how far to take the twist. Then maybe ending in the twist position, keeping your left shoulder as heavy as you can into the mat. Draw back towards the midline, hug both knees gently in, not full compression, and just give yourself a soft cradle rock. Then we'll work the double Upasana, drawing both knees in towards your chest on an active exhale, so it feels like you're bringing your tailbone off the mat, actively squeezing all of the stale blood and all of the stale air out of the body before you inhale to allow the knees to draw away. Then end in the knee away from your body position. Drop your arms into T and start to work an active drop to the right and back. Active drop to the right and back. Every time looking in the opposite direction. Trying to progressively bring those knees closer to the floor. Maybe give yourself 5 or 6 drops. Trying to come closer to the floor every time. And then end in the twist and hold it. And maybe you want to take your right fingertips and just softly press down on the top knee to intensify the twist. Come back to the midline. Place your hands palms down on the knees. And trace 2 circular patterns with the knees away from each other and back to the midline. Do a few in one direction and then change it up and trace your circular pattern in the opposite direction. Allowing an opportunity for your lower back to just relax into the mat while playing with that compression into the lower viscera. Then come back to your active double knee squeeze, lifting your tailbone and your bum off the mat. Use a nice, maybe shooting breath pattern, pursing the lips and making a soft hissing-like sound, shooting-like sound. Then end in the knee away position. Open up your arms into T and start to play with that drop off the center line and back. Keep moving in the same direction. As your knees roll and try to drop nice and heavy to the left, you're looking in the opposite direction and you're giving yourself at least 5 or 6 drops, trying to bring those knees as close to the floor as you can every time you come into the twist. End in the twisted position and hold, maybe using your left fingertips to bear down on the top knee. Find your way back to center. Place your hands palms down on the knees. Start to trace circular patterns with the knees away from each other and back to center. Keeping the back of your ribs nice and heavy into the mat. Spine in neutral, neck in neutral. Then change it up and trace that little circular pattern in the opposite direction. Then you can either end your practice in Shavasana and chill for a few moments, or you can end in a seated frame by tucking into a tight little ball, rocking the body up and down. Maybe you're holding behind the knees or on the shins, and you're going to roll like a ball, keeping that compression into the lower belly going, giving yourself at least 4 or 5 little rocks. Make sure you're hollowing out the belly, rounding out the back as you roll back and forth. Ending in a seated frame, maybe knees and top of your thighs drawn up quite close to your chest to reinforce that stimulation of the lower viscera. And then bring your hands together in prayer in front. It's the end of your practice. Maybe tapping your thumb tips to your nose on the words Namaste. Thank you so much for coming out and playing with me today. Hope you enjoyed today's class. Till next time, keep it light.